Hi, so today I thought I'd just go through a little bit about doing some wool applique, using some felted wool, appliquing it onto some more felted wool by machine. So often we like to do wool work by hand. I'm not very good with sharp things in my hands, so I like to do as much as I can by machine. So I've had a little go with a little patch here. Behind me here as well, you might be able to see there's a nice quilt hanging up, and this is a wool quilt which has got some applique and some hand quilting and things on it too. So I'm going to just go through quickly how we might do this. Now normally I do a lot of fusible applique, and when we're doing pre-cut shapes, I've got lots of pre-cut woolen shapes here. These are die cut. I have a nice little die cutter that does nice little things like that for me. When we're doing that with the specific shapes like this, we need everything to sit quite nicely when we're going to sew it. And with working with something that's a little bit thicker, a bit spongier than regular cotton fabrics, and we often use a fusible product, or I do, but that won't work with the wool because the wool's a bit thick and it doesn't allow the heat to get through enough to be able to fuse it in most cases. If you were fusing wool onto cotton, you could do that because you could fuse it from the back. However, I'm fusing wool onto wool, and it's just a bit harder to get the fusible to activate with that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do some shapes onto this piece of wool here, and I've got here a water-soluble glue. Now this is a glue that's used by patchworkers. It's used for all sorts of things, so I just thought this would work with the wool as well. So and it will wash out if you want it to, although it doesn't leave any sort of a mark or anything when you're using it anyway. But it is water soluble, designed for this sort of thing amongst many other things to do with patchwork. So I'm just going to pop some glue on the back of my flower, so I'm just going to run that around. It's not an exact thing, we don't need a huge amount of it, we just want it to sit so that where I'm going to sew, it's held down. It's just kind of fun to do something a little bit different occasionally. So I'll put the lid back on that, we don't want it going anywhere. So I've got that, this is on the back of the flower, and I'm just going to position that now where I want it. So you may want to just make a mark before you do this if you're not sure where you want it to go central and things like that, and just press it down, and it's just going to sit there and stay there. It will dry, it's not dry yet, but it's just going to hold it enough so that we can sew it. So now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do some blanket stitch around it like I've done on this little flower. And so what I'm going to do is I've put on a larger needle. I'm using some thicker thread. It's a 30 weight where my regular sewing thread is 50 weight, so it's quite a bit thicker. It's a lovely soft cotton thread. I've got a larger needle, larger thread on top, and I've also made the stitch larger. So I'm using the little blanket stitch, which is a straight line with a little one that comes in every so often, and I've made it, on this machine I've made it 3.5 wide, so it's extra wide, and I've made it 3.5 long so that everything about it is larger. It won't come out quite that large because on the wool it doesn't move quite as much as it might with the cotton, but that's how we're going to do it. And I'll just get my little leader out here because I don't need it when I'm going in to do applique. So when you're doing applique, going around little corners like this, we've got to go into this little valley and we've got to come around the curves. So it takes a little bit of time, and you can just take it slowly. So I'm just going to get it started. I'm just going to start in one of the little valleys. And it'll just do a little stitch. And then, so when you're going to go around the curve, you always want to stop on the outside of the curve. So more or less onto your background. That stitch should be going onto the background so that the straight part of the stitch is around the outside of the flower petal. If you have a knee lift on your machine, this would be a good time to use it because it will help you just turn it around. So, and stop every so often, every couple of stitches if you need to, with the needle down on the outside of the shape that you're going around, not the inside, so that it keeps that nice straight edge around the outside. And this kind of gives you a little bit of a folky applique style without you having to do everything with sharp things in your hands. So I'll just go around another one so that I can show you what I did in the corner. So just stop every couple of stitches, turn it around. You can kind of just pull it around and things, but it tends to pull the stitches out of shape and it's not overly helpful in the longer term. So when you get into this little valley here, same thing, leave the needle on the outside of the shape, turn it a little bit, you can do a stitch in there, lift it again and turn it again. So just take it slowly. Applique is always best done like this, a little bit slowly. There's no point rushing it. It doesn't like to be rushed. So I'm just going to continue on going around my flower because you probably don't need to watch me doing everything. And I'll come back and I'll pop the centre of the flower on after I've done that. So I've gone around my flower. It's all looking quite happy. You can tie your threads off on the back side, just pull your threads through and do that. And now I'm going to pop my centre into my flower, so I've got my circle already cut here. Same thing, I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on and we're going to stitch around the circle as well. And really it doesn't take so long to do these fun things. Gives a nice finish. So I'll go and just do some more. So this time it's same thing, exactly the same, except that we keep going around, we're not having to stop in those little valley points. But you have to keep stopping every couple of stitches, just the same. So it's kind of fun to do some little fun little projects. This could be part of a quilt, or it could be part of a pincushion, or it could be a little bag, it could be a pocket. There's just too many options. Just about back at the beginning again already. Doesn't take very long. So I locked that off at the beginning, so I'm just going to snip that because that won't come undone now. And there we have a nice little applique flower. In fact, we now have two nice little applique flowers. As I said, they could be used for any number of things. I'm not sure what I'll use mine for. And some water-soluble glue, which will just help hold it so that it won't shift around too much while you're doing the applique and things. And I just think that that's kind of fun to do some little bits of fun here and there. As I said, you can go ahead and make something larger, or you can make something smaller. But thicker thread, larger stitch, extra width, extra length in the stitch, and some water-soluble glue, and you've got some felted wool, and what more could you want? You've got a little bit of fun going on for some folk art type applique.